Hi, my name is Blake Gardner, and now before this makes you assume that you're going to hear a full testimony of complete healing, let me just say this. We're still waiting to see the full and complete healing of my kidneys, but we're believing that we're on a collision course with a divine miracle. Our trust is in God and in His Word to finish what He started and to work all things for good. With that said, this journey has had no shortage of testimonies of God's faithfulness. When Bree and I got married, we decided that our life verse was going to be Romans 8:28. We know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. We had no idea that in 2 years into our marriage, our faith would be tested on that word. On October 25th, 2021, we were diagnosed with renal failure. And this diagnosis was troubling, and it's one that doesn't come with much hope of recovery in the eyes of medical professionals. But we've been able to see God work so many things for our good. From little things like having favor in appointments, things that should have taken months to get through, but God made happen in days. Getting on the transplant list in 2 to 3 months while most people have to wait for years. Every part of what we've been facing, we have been met with unmerited favor and an acceleration that has had us and others baffled by how God has worked in this. God has watched over me and my health with faithfulness that could only come from Him. You know, in this season, God has brought us healing in so many areas of life. You know, burdens and troubles that I had been carrying for years in my heart. Pains and traumas that had been exposed through this process. You know, learning on this journey, we don't always enjoy the places that God brings us through. In fact, given the choice, many of us wouldn't choose to walk through it at all. But without it, we never truly become what God has intended for us. This is my testimony. While trusting and believing for an even greater testimony from this, I have learned to be grateful. I have learned that we can't wait for everything to become perfect in our eyes to start living and to start living for Christ. So if today you're like me, and you're waiting for the greater part of your testimony, I want to encourage you to start living like you already have it. I want to encourage you to look back on the journey so far and recognize where God has been faithful. Trust Him to finish what He started in you, and that He's working all of this, everything that you may be facing, just like I'm believing that everything that we've been facing is all working together for the good. As for me, as I look back on the journey that God has been bringing me through, there's so many examples that flood my mind. I'll give you just a couple. At the beginning of this year, I was facing a lot of issues with the catheter that was placed in my chest to be able to have dialysis treatments. It wasn't working. Every few minutes the machine would stop working, and I really couldn't get any treatment. And they were telling me I needed to get it replaced, but I was really just hoping that something else would happen before then and I wouldn't have to go through the surgery to replace the catheter. As time went on, they told me that I just couldn't come back for treatment unless I went and got it replaced. So what I did is I didn't go back for treatment. And in that moment, we were just praying and believing that God would do a mighty miracle, and a miracle did come. Not the one we were expecting, but one still that rings true to us this day and shows His faithfulness. It came on a Sunday. I was on my way to church, and I decided I needed to go into the hospital to get this catheter replaced and to get the proper treatment because I had now gone days without it. In that moment, I went to NCH in Naples, and while I was there, they were asking me questions as to why I came in, what I needed, and everything that was going on with me at that time. As time went on while we were in there, they weren't sure if I was going to have to wait until Monday to get the surgery. So I'm waiting for the doctors to come and give me a reply. But after just a little bit of waiting and a little bit of testing, they came in, they had a surgeon come in, they replaced the catheter in that moment. They even had somebody come and be there to give me dialysis treatment on the same day. And while they were thinking that they was going to have to stay overnight, I was actually able to leave in that same day. Now, why is this a miracle? Why is this so crazy? Because no one works on Sundays at the NCH in Naples. It's just a day that all of the surgeons have off, all of the dialysis techs have off. Nobody is in there to do those treatments or do those surgeries. And it is just a miracle that when they called and asked people to come in to do the surgery and to do the treatment, that they showed up and it was done within hours and I was out. and able to go about my day and go about my life without having a huge inconvenience or too much trouble in that moment. It just showed me that God was faithful even in the medical field, and even in the times where we need Him to step in and kind of save us from our own situations that we're in. Another thing could be that even this week, I had to go in for a treatment of dialysis on a different day at a different time due to the hurricane that was coming by. When I was in there, I realized all of the people that were in there at that time were people who were either severely sick or very negative, very complaining, and very boisterous with their complaints about life, about dialysis, about everything that was going on. And it made me realize that the times that I go for treatment, which is Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 6 a.m., I get there and I'm surrounded by people who are positive. I'm surrounded by people, they may not be Christians, they may not be believers like I am, but they're positive, they still enjoy life, and that they're relatively healthy despite what they're going through with their kidneys as well. And it just made me realize God was even faithful in the times and the place that He set me in for treatment for this past year and a half of getting treatments on the same time, on the same days. He put me around people who wouldn't be negative, who wouldn't drag my attitude down, who wouldn't make me feel like I was surrounded by death and negativity, but He gave me people who were full of life and full of positivity that just makes the overall experience even better. Again, just another way that God has shown His faithfulness to me through this journey while waiting for the greater part of this testimony. And I just want to end with this. Throughout this year and a half, obviously it's come with many ups and downs. It's come with a roller coaster of emotions. It's come with physical ups and physical downs. It's come with victories. It's come with feelings of being defeated, feelings of being broken down, feelings of being stripped bare down to the bone, where you really are nothing but a soul, and a soul that is broken, and a soul that is contrite, and a soul that is just needing of a Savior. Every single time throughout this journey that I have felt that I was at the end of my rope, every single time that I have felt like I just could not go on, that I couldn't take another step, that I couldn't deal with another heartbreak, that I couldn't deal any longer with having this medical device in my chest, that I couldn't wake up another day at 5:30 in the morning to go to a treatment that I just didn't want to go to and sit there for 4.5 hours with nothing to do but sit in a chair and wait to be done. Every time that I felt like I was even going to go insane mentally because I just couldn't handle the weight and the burden and the pressure of this journey that we've been on, God has shown up in such amazing ways. He always steps in right there when I feel like I'm face first in the dirt to pick me up and to keep me going on this path, to show me that I have a hope that cannot be dissuaded, that cannot be taken away, that cannot be defeated, that I have a hope in Christ for something greater, that I have a word in my life that says He is working this for the good, and that if it's not good yet, then He's not done yet. And that has just been the most amazing part of this journey, is to truly learn for myself God's faithfulness, to not just hear it from other stories, to not just read it from the Bible, but to have a first-hand experience of every time I've stumbled, God has been there to help me back up. Every time I feel like I've lost all hope, He has reassured me that He is the hope that outlasts every other hope, that He is the anchor for my soul, that He is the one taking me on this journey, so He is the one fighting the battle. And every time I feel like I need to be the one to pick up the weapon and fight, that I need to be the one who does more than trust Him and does more than just believe that He is working it out, and every time I feel like I've needed to take things into my own hands, I realize how weak I am, and it places me back into His graces to see how strong He is. And I've been able to experience firsthand that the joy of the Lord is our strength. Every time I've been filled with sorrow, I would remind myself of the joy that I have in the Lord, or God would do something to remind me of the joy that I have in Him. And that not only gave me a strength to keep going on the inside, I would notice that it would give me a physical strength to be able to complete the tasks that were ahead of me, whether that be having energy to be with the students on Wednesdays, now Thursday nights, but back then Wednesday nights, and to have the energy even after dialysis treatment to have fun with them and to be excited and enjoy the time with them and not be completely drained by the treatment that day. Little things that God has done little and big things that God has done, has shown me that He is faithful, and He is never not faithful, and He never leaves us nor forsakes us. So I just again want to just take this time and share this part of the testimony, because I want you to be able to know and have seen the journey that we've walked through, and to be able to take part of that journey, so that when it comes time to celebrate what God does completely in my body, and it comes time to celebrate the full and complete miracle that He has done, that we can share that together as well, and that we can celebrate together as well, and that what God has done in my life can also do something in your faith and show you that God can move even in the toughest situations in your own life. Thank you.